Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to try and unpack the story of a man who, depending on who you talk to, is either India's greatest protector or its most dangerous political operator. We're talking about Ajit Doval. You hear this a lot, right? People call him India's modern Chanakya, a nod to that ancient master of statecraft. But what does that really mean today? Well, it means he's seen as the ultimate strategist, the guy playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, all from the deep shadows of national security. But here's the thing about Ajit Doval. His story is a tale of two completely different people rolled into one. To some, he's a legendary super spy, the architect of India's modern security. But to others, he's a controversial political operator, a partisan power broker who plays by his own rules. So you have to ask, how does one person become both a national hero and such a polarizing figure at the same time? Let's trace the unbelievable journey that shaped the man who, right now, is shaping India's security policy. All right, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll follow his path from a young officer to a legendary spy, look at how he navigated huge national crises and political controversies, and then try to understand the legacy he's building today. So, our story doesn't start in the halls of power in Delhi. Nope, it starts on the streets of Kerala, where a young police officer first showed everyone he was different. So, Doval's career. It basically started with a bang. At just 22 years old, he aces the super tough civil services exam. Then, in 1971, he gets sent to deal with this violent religious riot. Now, instead of just sending in force, he identifies the leaders, negotiates with them, and gets the whole thing to end peacefully, in 1 week. This wasn't just good police work, it showed a totally different way of thinking, strategy over brute force, and you better believe people in Delhi noticed. By 1972, he was pulled out of the police and put on the fast track into the intelligence bureau. And it's here, in the shadows of insurgency, that Doval really starts to build his legendary reputation. His methods were, well, they were not exactly by the book, but they were incredibly effective. Take Mizoram. A separatist movement there had 7 key commanders. Doval goes undercover and gets inside their camp, and slowly he earns their trust. He becomes their drinking partner. He even invited them over to his own home for dinner. Just picture this for a second. His wife is cooking for these men, and she has no idea they're armed militants. I mean, that's the level of trust he built, and over 2 years, he manages to flip 6 of the 7 commanders, totally crippling the insurgency from the inside and forcing the main leader to come to the peace table. Next stop, Sikkim. At the time, there was a real fear this Himalayan kingdom could become a U.S. satellite state, especially after the king married a woman suspected of being a CIA asset. Doval's mission? Make sure Sikkim merges with India. But his weapon wasn't a gun or a secret file. It was politics. He quietly started funding pro-India parties, essentially engineering a political outcome that led to Sikkim officially becoming part of India. For this incredible work in both Mizoram and Sikkim, he gets one of India's highest police honors. Now, it usually takes an officer about 14 years to earn it. Doval, he got it in just 7. The guy was clearly on another level. Doval's skills were then put to the test on the international stage, and in some of India's absolute darkest hours, where the stakes were literally life and death. Get this, he spent nearly 7 years operating deep inside Pakistan. Every single day, he was risking his life to uncover state secrets, and he almost got caught, twice. Once, because a religious man noticed his ears were pierced, which didn't fit his cover story. Another time, his fake beard started to peel off in public. I mean, these were heart-stopping, life-or-death moments. But probably his most daring move ever came during Operation Black Thunder in 1988. Militants had taken over the Golden Temple, just like they had 4 years earlier in a much bloodier siege. Doval first disguised himself as a rickshaw driver to gather intel, and then he just walked right inside, posing as an agent from Pakistan's ISI, pretending he was there to help them. Once inside, he won their trust, mapped out their positions, and fed all that info to the commandos waiting outside. At the same time, he got their power and water cut off. When their leader was taken out by a sniper, Doval was right there to convince the demoralized militants to surrender peacefully. And the result? It was a world away from the bloody siege that had scarred the nation just a few years earlier. This time, no full-scale military assault. Just pure strategy, patience, and one man on the inside. He was also the guy at the table during the infamous Kandahar hijacking. For 8 agonizing days, the lives of 170 passengers were in his hands. He ultimately had to make an impossible choice, trading 3 captured militants to bring every single hostage home alive.
It was a decision that, to this day, people still debate. But as Doval's influence grew, he started to move from the shadows of espionage right into the spotlight of politics. And well, that's when the controversies and the powerful enemies really started to pile up.
And a lot of that friction came to a head in Kashmir. Critics, including some former intelligence chiefs, claim that Doval was the key figure behind creating a whole new political party, the PDP. It was seen by some as a masterstroke to divide the opposition there, but it also crossed a pretty big line, from gathering intelligence to actually engineering politics. And that move permanently wrecked his relationship with the powerful Congress Party. In 2004, he finally got the top job, Director of the Intelligence Bureau. And the standard term for that position? 2 years.
But remember that ruined relationship? Well, here's where it comes back to bite him. A new Congress-led government came into power, and his 2-year term was slashed to just 8 months. He was forced into early retirement. It was pretty clear political payback.
But Doval didn't just fade away in retirement. Oh no. He built a new power base, a think tank called the Vivekananda International Foundation. And the VIF became this major hub for anti-corruption movements and the political opposition. It was a crucial player in shaping the political wave that eventually swept to power in the 2014 election. And the political fights got intensely personal. A very senior Congress leader held a big press conference and accused Doval's son, Vivek, of running a hedge fund of black money that was somehow linked to demonetization. Doval's family didn't just take it, they hit back hard with a criminal defamation case. And in a pretty shocking turnaround, the politician who made the accusations was forced to issue a formal, written apology in court, completely retracting his statements. Then, in 2014, with the new government in power, Ajit Doval made his big comeback from political exile. He was appointed National Security Advisor, and he's been in that chair ever since. And right away, he started putting his signature philosophy into practice, what everyone now calls the Doval Doctrine. It marked a massive shift in how India thought about security. See, the old way was defensive. You wait for an attack, then you respond. The Doval Doctrine is defensive-offensive. Don't wait for the punch. Go to where the threat is coming from and neutralize it before it can strike. And this new doctrine? It wasn't just talk. We saw it in action almost immediately. From him personally flying to Iraq to rescue 46 nurses from ISIS, to the cross-border surgical strikes, and of course, the hugely controversial decision to abrogate Article 370 in Kashmir. These are all classic examples of his aggressive, proactive style. So where does that leave us? I mean, his career has been a masterclass in covert ops, crisis management, and just raw political power. He has, without a doubt, completely reshaped India's security. But in doing that, he's also blurred the line between spy master and power broker, leaving us with that one final question. What will his true legacy really be?